My name is Mia, and I'm 32 years old. Growing up, I was always the dependable one in our family. I managed our finances, supported my parents' dreams, and put my own life on hold. I never imagined my father would throw me out on Christmas night with snow falling and nowhere to go. He thought I'd come crawling back desperate for his approval like always. Instead, I did something that changed everything. I cut them off completely. Before I tell you how I turned my family's perfect life upside down, let me know where you're watching from and hit that subscribe button if you've ever had to stand up to family who took you for granted. Growing up in our suburban home in Portland, my relationship with my parents, Jack and Natalie Wilson, always felt complicated. Dad built his construction business from the ground up, something he never let anyone forget. Mom always played the supportive wife, handling the social aspects while Dad brought in the money. My younger sister Sophia, 4 years my junior, was the apple of my father's eye. Talented, beautiful, and according to him, destined for greatness. I was the practical one, the responsible one, the one who helped Dad with spreadsheets when I was 12 because I had a good head for numbers. By the time I was in high school, I was essentially keeping the books for his growing business. I'd stay up late reconciling accounts while my friends went to parties. "You're building character, Mia," Dad would say. "Sophia is delicate. She's an artist. You're the strong one. You can handle responsibility." I believed him. I believed I was helping our family succeed. I put my dreams of becoming an architect on hold after college, taking accounting classes instead because the family needed me. I moved back home to save money, which turned into 5 years, then 10 of managing every aspect of my family's finances. "Just until the business really takes off," Dad promised. "Then you can do whatever you want." But the business did take off, and still I remained essential. Not as a partner, though, as an employee. An undervalued one at that. When I was 26, Dad's credit score tanked after a series of poor investment decisions. Without telling me the real reason, he convinced me to put utility subscriptions and eventually even the second mortgage on the family home in my name. "It's just easier this way with you handling all the payments," he explained. "Plus, it's helping you build credit." What it really built was a web of financial entanglement that bound me to my family in ways I didn't fully understand until much later. Everything from their cable TV package to the family cell phone plan to the internet service was in my name. I dutifully paid all these bills from the joint account where my salary from the family business was deposited. Mom never questioned this arrangement. She just enjoyed the lifestyle it provided. The country club membership, the luxury SUV, the renovated kitchen. She'd pat my hand during Sunday dinners and say, "We're so lucky to have our Mia. Such a good daughter." Sophia watched and learned. By 23, my sister had become an aspiring social media influencer who had never paid a bill in her life. She'd swoop into the office occasionally to ask for money for a new camera or a weekend trip that would really help her brand. "Don't be stingy, Mia," Dad would say if I hesitated. "Family supports family." Everything changed when I met Tyler at a friend's birthday party. He was kind, thoughtful, and genuinely interested in my dreams I had almost forgotten I had. For the first time, someone was asking what I wanted, not what I could do for them. As our relationship grew serious, Tyler asked innocent questions that started to open my eyes. "Why are you working 60-hour weeks for a salary that's well below market rate? Why is your name on your parents' cable bill? Why did you pay for your sister's trip to Miami if she's making money as an influencer?" I didn't have good answers. "Your family is taking advantage of you, Mia," he finally said one night. "You need to set some boundaries." Dad immediately disliked Tyler even before meeting him. The mere mention of "my boyfriend" would make his face harden. "You don't have time for distractions," he'd say. "The quarter-end reports aren't going to file themselves." When they finally met at a family dinner, Dad spent the entire time interrogating Tyler about his job as a physical therapist. "Not much money in that, is there?" Dad said pointedly. "Mia's used to a certain lifestyle." The irony was crushing. I was used to working myself to exhaustion to support everyone else's lifestyle. Over the next year, the tension built. Every time I tried to create some independence, moving to my own apartment, taking a weekend trip with Tyler, or even just leaving work at a reasonable hour, there would be a family emergency requiring my immediate attention. Dad's business faced a tax audit I needed to organize 10 years of records. Mom wanted to remodel the kitchen again. I needed to research contractors and manage the budget. Sophia had an opportunity to collaborate with another influencer in Los Angeles. I needed to book flights and accommodations on my credit card. Tyler watched with growing concern but supported me as I slowly tried to disentangle myself. "They're still my family," I'd explain after canceling our plans for the third time in a month. "I can't just abandon them." "You're not abandoning anyone by having your own life," he'd counter. "They're adults. They survived before you started handling everything." Deep down, I knew he was right. But years of conditioning had convinced me that my value was tied to my usefulness. I just needed to find the right moment to start setting proper boundaries. I had no idea that moment would come in the most painful way possible. The tensions with my family escalated steadily throughout the year. Dad became increasingly hostile toward Tyler, seeing him as a threat to the neat system he had established with me at the center, handling everything. "That boy is filling your head with nonsense," he'd say whenever I questioned anything or asked for proper compensation for my work. "You've never been ungrateful before." Ungrateful. That word became his weapon of choice. Asking for a formal employment contract was ungrateful. Suggesting I couldn't work weekends anymore was ungrateful. Even mentioning that I might want to use my architectural degree someday was met with stunned silence followed by, "After all we've done for you." The arguments increased in frequency and intensity. One particularly nasty fight erupted when Dad found out I was helping Tyler look at small business loans. Tyler wanted to open his own physical therapy practice, and I was using my financial expertise to help him create a business plan. "So you have time to build his business, but not enough time for your own family," Dad shouted, slamming his hand on his desk. "I gave you everything, Mia. I taught you, everything you know." What he really meant was that I belonged to him, to the family business, indefinitely. That summer, we took what Mom called a family bonding vacation to Florida. I used my credit card points to book the flights and accommodations as usual. For 7 days, I endured criticism about everything from my swimsuit, a bit revealing for a family vacation, don't you think? To my phone habits, always texting that boyfriend instead of enjoying family time. The real kicker came when Dad borrowed my car to visit a potential business contact in Naples. He returned it with a significant dent in the passenger door. "It's just a car, Mia," he said dismissively when I pointed it out. "Don't be materialistic." When I suggested he cover the repair costs, both he and Mom looked at me like I'd suggested something obscene. "Family doesn't nickel and dime each other," Mom said softly, her disappointment clear. "Your father would give you the shirt off his back, but apparently a check for car repairs was asking too much." After that trip, something shifted in me. I started keeping meticulous records of every dollar I spent on family expenses, creating spreadsheets that cataloged years of financial support I'd provided. The numbers were staggering. I'd contributed over $80,000 to various family expenses in just the past 3 years, beyond my underpaid work for the business. Thanksgiving became another flashpoint. I invited Tyler, assuming he'd be welcome for the holiday. Dad called me the week before. "We're keeping it small this year," he said. "Just family." "Tyler is important to me," I countered. "I'd like him there. And I'd like a peaceful holiday without your boyfriend questioning how we do things," Dad snapped. "My house, my rules, Mia." I went alone, seething inside, but still unable to break free from the obligation I felt. Tyler encouraged me to stand my ground, but understood when I couldn't. "They're your family," he said. "But remember, you deserve respect too." The Thanksgiving meal was tense. Mom had invited their neighbors, her book club friends, and Dad's golf buddies. So much for keeping it small. Sophia brought 2 friends from her influencer circle. I sat alone, the only one without a +1 serving food and clearing plates while everyone else enjoyed themselves. Later that night, I overheard Dad talking to his friend in his study. "She's going through a phase," he said, clearly referring to me. "This boyfriend is filling her head with ideas about independence, but she'll come around. She always does. Mia knows where her bread is buttered." I stood frozen in the hallway, a tray of coffee cups in my hands as the truth washed over me. I wasn't valued as a daughter. I was valued as an asset, a reliable resource to be exploited. And my father was confident in his control over me. When I got home that night, I called Tyler in tears. "I don't know how to break free without blowing up my entire family," I sobbed. "Maybe that's not your responsibility," he said gently. "Maybe they need to understand what they stand to lose." I had no idea how prophetic those words would become. December brought new tensions. Dad's business was facing problems with a major project, and he expected me to work overtime to find solutions. No additional pay, of course. Just another expectation that I would sacrifice for the family. Meanwhile, I was trying to plan for a modest Christmas celebration. Tyler and I had discussed him joining us for Christmas dinner, and this time I wasn't going to back down. I informed my parents rather than asking permission. "It's important to me that Tyler is included," I said firmly during a family dinner in early December. "He's a significant part of my life." Dad's face turned an alarming shade of red, but before he could explode, Mom placed a hand on his arm. "Of course, dear," she said with a tight smile. "We want you to be happy." I should have recognized the danger in her too easy capitulation, but I was so relieved to avoid another confrontation that I missed the calculating look my father and sister exchanged. I had no idea they were planning something that would change everything. Christmas Eve started like a Hallmark movie, but ended like a nightmare. I arrived at my parents' house early to help Mom prepare dinner, bringing carefully wrapped presents that had stretched my budget to the breaking point. The tree glittered in the corner, snow fell gently outside, and the smell of pine and cinnamon filled the air. "Everything looks beautiful," I told Mom as I arranged my gifts under the tree. I'd spent weeks finding the perfect presents: an expensive watch for Dad, a spa package for Mom, and high-end photography equipment for Sophia. Despite everything, I still wanted them to know I cared. "Yes, it's going to be a memorable Christmas," Mom replied with a strange smile that should have warned me. Sophia arrived around noon, instantly commandeering the living room for what she called a Christmas aesthetics photo shoot for her Instagram. She rearranged Mom's carefully placed decorations without asking and barely acknowledged my presence. "Can you not stand there? You're ruining my light," she said when I tried to help her set up. Not even a hello or Merry Christmas. Dad came home from a quick stop at the office at 4, just as I was putting the finishing touches on the side dishes. He glanced at my contributions to the meal without comment, then disappeared into his study with a scotch. As dinner time approached, I texted Tyler to confirm he was on his way. He was bringing dessert, a beautiful bûche de Noël from the French bakery across town. I was anxious but determined that this year would be different. This year, my chosen family would be respected by my birth family. When the doorbell rang at 6:30, I hurried to answer it, wanting to greet Tyler myself. He stood on the porch with snow dusting his shoulders, holding the dessert box, and looking handsome in a dark green sweater I'd given him as an early Christmas gift. "Merry Christmas," he said, kissing my cheek. "Ready for this?" "As I'll ever be," I replied, taking a deep breath and leading him inside. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Dad's smile was cold as ice as he shook Tyler's hand with excessive force. Mom's greeting was polite but distant. Sophia barely looked up from her phone. "Let's eat," Dad announced abruptly, not even giving Tyler time to remove his coat. Dinner started with uncomfortable small talk. Mom asked Tyler about his family's Christmas traditions, but whenever he tried to answer, Dad would interrupt with a comment or question directed at someone else. The tension built with each passing minute. Then, as we were finishing the main course, Dad cleared his throat. "So Tyler, Sophia tells me you've been encouraging Mia to look for another job." His voice was dangerously calm. I froze. I hadn't told anyone except Tyler about the architectural firm that had contacted me about an opening in the new year. Someone must have seen the emails on my phone. Before Tyler could respond, I jumped in. Actually, Dad, that was my decision. I've been thinking about using my degree. I wasn't talking to you. Dad cut me off sharply. I want to hear from the man who thinks he knows what's best for my daughter, better than her own family does. Tyler remained calm. Sir, I only want what makes Mia happy. She's incredibly talented. She has obligations, Dad interrupted again. Responsibilities, commitments to this family that she seems to be forgetting lately. Jack, please, Mom said softly. It's Christmas. But Dad was on a roll now, his face reddening. No, Natalie, this needs to be said. This young man comes into our lives, and suddenly Mia's questioning everything. Suddenly she's too busy for family dinners. Suddenly she wants market-rate compensation for work in the family business. Maybe she deserves fair compensation, Tyler suggested evenly. Dad slammed his hand on the table, making the dishes jump. This is family. We don't keep score. Don't you? I said, finding my voice at last. Because it seems like you've been keeping very careful score of everything I owe you while disregarding everything I've given. Sophia rolled her eyes dramatically. Here we go with the martyr act. That's when I snapped. Martyr act. I paid for your trip to Coachella last spring. I covered your car insurance when you crashed Dad's BMW. I've been subsidizing this entire family for years. How dare you? Dad roared. Standing up so quickly his chair fell backward. After everything we've done for you, what exactly have you done for me? I demanded, also standing now. Used me as free labor, put bills in my name to cover for your bad credit, made me feel guilty for wanting my own life. The room went deadly silent. I had never spoken to my father this way. I think you should apologize to your father, Mom said stiffly. No, I replied, the single word feeling like liberation. I'm done apologizing for existing outside of what's convenient for this family. Dad's face contorted with rage. That's it. I want him out of my house, he said, pointing at Tyler. And if you choose to go with him, don't bother coming back. Dad, it's Christmas, I protested, shocked despite everything. Choose Mia, he demanded. Your family or this distraction? Tyler started to stand. I should go. I don't want to ruin your Christmas. No, I said, placing my hand on his arm. You're not the one ruining Christmas. I looked my father in the eye. I choose respect. I choose someone who values me for more than what I can do for them. What happened next is burned into my memory forever. Dad's face went from red to purple. Get out, he hissed. Both of you, get out of my house. Jack, Mom gasped. It's snowing. Where will she go? That's not my problem, he replied coldly. She's made her choice. I stood in shock as he stormed upstairs, returning moments later with a duffel bag that he'd hastily filled with some of my belongings from my old room. He threw it at my feet. The rest will be on the curb tomorrow, he said. Take what matters now. You can't be serious, I whispered, looking at Mom and Sophia for support. But Mom stared at her plate, and Sophia watched with a small, satisfied smile, as if this was entertaining content for her next vlog. Deadly serious, Dad replied. You want independence. Here it is. Tyler put his arm around me. Come on, Mia. Let's go. As we walked to the door, I grabbed my purse and coat with shaking hands. Dad followed, making sure we left. As he opened the door, revealing the snow falling heavily outside, he delivered his parting shot. You'll come crawling back when you realize you need us. When you realize what you've thrown away. And maybe if you apologize properly, we'll consider letting you back into this family. The door slammed behind us, leaving Tyler and me standing in the snowy darkness. My childhood home lit up with Christmas lights that suddenly seemed like a cruel joke. I broke down in Tyler's car, sobbing uncontrollably as we drove away. Everything I thought I knew about my place in the world had shattered in a single night. What am I going to do? I gasped between sobs. That's my family. That's my job. That's everything. Tyler kept one hand on the wheel and reached over to hold my hand with the other. Not everything, Mia. Not even close to everything. As we drove through the snowy streets past homes filled with families celebrating together, I couldn't imagine how I would ever recover from this betrayal. I didn't know then that this painful ending would become the beginning of my true liberation. I didn't yet understand that my father had just made the biggest mistake of his life. Christmas night in Tyler's modest one-bedroom apartment was a blur of tears and confusion. He made me tea, wrapped me in blankets, and held me as the reality of what had just happened sank in. "They'll call tomorrow," I kept saying. "Once Dad calms down, they'll realize what they've done." But my phone remained silent, except for messages from friends wishing me a Merry Christmas. Nothing from Mom. Nothing from Sophia. Certainly nothing from Dad. The next morning, I woke up disoriented on Tyler's couch. For a moment, I couldn't remember why I was there. Then it all came flooding back. The argument, my father's rage, the sight of the front door slamming shut with me on the wrong side. "Maybe I should call them," I said as Tyler brought me coffee. "It's Christmas Day. We shouldn't be fighting." Tyler sat beside me. "Before you do that, I want you to think about something. Have they ever apologized to you for anything?" I opened my mouth to respond, then closed it again. I couldn't recall a single instance of my father admitting he was wrong. As the day progressed, with still no word from my family, a strange calm began to replace my panic. I started thinking more clearly about my situation. "I need to figure out what bills and accounts are in my name," I said finally. "I need to understand exactly what my exposure is." Tyler nodded, relieved that I was thinking practically. "That's a good first step." I spent the next few days in a state of focused determination, working through the financial entanglement between myself and my family. The picture that emerged was both shocking and illuminating. The family cell phone plan with 5 lines in my name. The premium cable package with all sports and movie channels. My account. The high-speed internet service for the house and Dad's home office under my Social Security number. The utilities for the family home. All me. The second mortgage that had financed the kitchen renovation Mom had needed last year, my signature on the dotted line. Even Sophia's car lease was connected to my credit, as I'd co-signed when her influencer income wasn't deemed stable enough by the dealership. For years, I'd been the invisible financial foundation of my family's comfortable lifestyle. And they had taken it completely for granted. I reached out to Melissa, a friend who worked as a financial advisor, and invited her for coffee. After explaining my situation, she gave me a concerned look. "This is a mess, Mia, but it's a fixable one. The good news is that since everything is in your name, you have control. The bad news is that making changes could impact your relationship with your family permanently." I laughed bitterly. "I think that ship has sailed." "Then let's talk strategy," she replied, pulling out a notebook. "You need to protect yourself first. Close joint accounts, open new ones at a different bank. Document everything. And brace yourself. They're going to be furious when they realize what's happening." On December 28th, still with no contact from my family, I put Melissa's plan into action. I went to a new bank and opened accounts solely in my name. I transferred my portion of the joint savings, careful to leave all funds that could be proven to come from my parents or the business. Next, I pulled my credit report and made a comprehensive list of every account, service, and loan that had my name attached. The list was longer than I'd feared. While I was figuring all this out, I received a text from Sophia. "Dad says you can come get the rest of your stuff tomorrow between 12 and 2. Don't be late." No apology. No concern for where I'd been staying. Just a demand that I adhere to their schedule. I showed up at exactly noon the next day with Tyler and his truck. Dad wasn't home. Deliberately, I was sure. Mom opened the door but barely made eye contact as she let us in. "Your things are in the garage," she said quietly. "Jack boxed them up." As Tyler and I loaded the haphazardly packed boxes, I noticed something odd. "These are just my childhood things," I said to Mom. "Where are my financial documents? My laptop? My external hard drives?" Jack kept anything related to the business, she replied, looking uncomfortable. He says they're company property. My blood ran cold. Those drives contained personal files as well. Photos, emails, writing from my college years. That's theft, I said flatly. Mom flinched. He says you can have them back when you come to your senses and apologize. In that moment, something hardened inside me. This wasn't just about Christmas night anymore. This was about years of manipulation and control. Mom, I said carefully, you might want to prepare Dad for some changes. What do you mean? She asked finally, looking directly at me. Just that actions have consequences, I replied. Even his. Back at Tyler's apartment, I laid out my plan. I would methodically remove myself from every family expense one by one in a strategic order designed for maximum impact with minimal legal risk. Are you sure about this? Tyler asked. Once you start, there's no going back. They kicked me out into the snow on Christmas, I reminded him. They kept my personal property. They've been taking advantage of me for years. I'm not just sure. I'm certain. I began setting up recording apps on my phone to document any interactions. I researched the legality of removing myself from various accounts and services. I prepared a script for difficult conversations I knew were coming. Above all, I secured my own future first. I accepted the job offer from the architectural firm scheduled to start in 2 weeks. I found a small but affordable apartment closer to my new office. I began the process of rebuilding my life, this time on my terms. On New Year's Day, while most people were making resolutions, I was executing the first phase of my plan. I called the cable company and canceled the premium sports package just hours before a major football game my dad had been looking forward to all season. I switched the account to the most basic service available, still providing TV, but removing all the extras my family had grown accustomed to. Then I waited. The call came during the first quarter. Dad's name flashing on my phone was both expected and satisfying. "There's something wrong with the TV," he barked when I answered, not bothering with a greeting. "The game is showing as unavailable." "Yes," I replied calmly. "I reduced the package to basic service since I'm no longer living there but still paying the bill." The silence lasted 3 seconds before the explosion. "You what? Turn it back on right now. The guys are coming over to watch." "I'm afraid I can't do that," I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. "The account is in my name, and I've made a financial decision that makes sense for my current situation." "This is ridiculous. You're punishing the whole family because you're in a snit about Christmas." "No, Dad. I'm adjusting services that I pay for to reflect my actual usage. Since I'm not there to watch premium sports channels, it doesn't make sense for me to pay for them." He sputtered, unable to formulate a response to such rational explanation. Finally, he resorted to threats. "If you don't fix this, immediately don't bother trying to come back to work on Monday." "I won't be coming back to work for you at all," I informed him. "I've accepted a position with Hartman Architectural Group starting January 15th. The silence that followed was deafening. When he finally spoke, his voice was ice cold. "You're making a huge mistake, Mia. Huge." "No, Dad. For the first time in years, I'm not making a mistake. I'm fixing one." I hung up and immediately blocked his number. My hands were shaking, but I felt more powerful than I had in years. The next day, I removed myself from the family cell phone plan during the exact hours that Sophia was participating in an Instagram challenge that required constant posting and engagement. Her phone service cut out mid-live stream to her followers. The text from her came through to my email since I'd blocked her number. Furious messages about how I'd ruined her chance at a sponsored deal. 3 days later, I canceled the high-speed internet service to the house, timing it perfectly with Dad's important video conference with potential investors. He had to conduct the meeting from his phone using cellular data. One by one, I methodically removed myself from every service subscription and account that my family had come to depend on. I redirected all bills and final notices to the family home address, ensuring they would see exactly what they had taken for granted. Through it all, I documented everything. Every call, every text, every email. I kept meticulous records of what services I had canceled versus transferred, making sure I fulfilled any legal obligations while exercising my right to close accounts in my name. The reactions escalated as expected. Mom's tearful voicemails begging me to stop punishing the family. Sophia's venomous social media posts vaguely referencing toxic family members without naming me directly. Dad's increasingly threatening messages sent from Mom's phone or through mutual acquaintances. "You think you're teaching us a lesson?" came one such message. "All you're doing is proving how selfish you really are." But I stayed the course, empowered by each step toward financial independence. Tyler supported me completely, helping me stay strong when doubts crept in. "They're trying to make you feel guilty for standing up for yourself," he would remind me. "That's how they've controlled you all these years." When I canceled the joint credit card I shared with my mother, the one she used for grocery shopping and her hair appointments, she showed up at Tyler's apartment unannounced. "How could you do this to me?" she demanded, tears streaming down her face. I was humiliated at the salon. My card was declined. "I sent you 3 emails warning you this was coming," I replied calmly. "You ignored all of them." "Because I shouldn't have to beg my own daughter not to punish me for something your father did," she cried. "You stood by and watched him throw me out on Christmas," I reminded her. "You've enabled his behavior for years, and now you're dealing with the consequences of those choices." As she left, she delivered the line I'd been expecting all along. "Your father was right. We don't recognize who you've become." "That's the problem, Mom," I replied. "You never really knew me at all." The final step was the most dramatic. In mid-January, I officially removed myself as co-signer on Sophia's car lease, informing the leasing company that I would no longer be financially responsible for the vehicle. They in turn contacted Sophia, requiring her to requalify based solely on her own income or return the car. The fallout was nuclear. Sophia showed up at my new office, creating such a scene that security had to escort her out. She screamed that I was ruining her life, that she needed the car for her brand partnerships, that she'd never forgive me. I watched her performance with a detached sadness. My little sister, who I'd once adored, had become as entitled and manipulative as our father. By February, I had successfully disentangled myself from every financial connection to my family. The process had been painful, exhausting, and occasionally frightening, especially when Dad showed up at my workplace demanding to speak with me, resulting in a call to the police when he refused to leave. But as winter melted into spring, something unexpected happened. I began to feel lighter, freer, more authentically myself than I had in years. The architectural job challenged and fulfilled me. My new apartment, though small, was truly mine. And my relationship with Tyler deepened into something I hadn't known was possible. A partnership of equals built on respect and genuine care. Meanwhile, through mutual friends and community gossip, I heard about the changes in my family's circumstances. They had to significantly downgrade their lifestyle without my financial support. Dad's business was struggling without my administrative expertise. Mom had to get a part-time job for the first time in 20 years, and Sophia had to trade her luxury car for a used Honda when she couldn't qualify for the lease on her own. Their perfect life, it seemed, had been largely subsidized by the daughter they had taken for granted. And now they were learning to live without her. 6 months after being thrown out on Christmas night, I was sitting with Tyler on the small balcony of our new apartment. We had moved in together the month before, a step that felt natural and right. The summer evening was warm and we were enjoying a simple dinner outdoors. "I saw your mom today," Tyler said casually, taking a sip of his wine. My fork paused halfway to my mouth. "Where?" "At the grocery store. She looked different, tired." I nodded, absorbing this information. I hadn't spoken to any family members in months, though the attempts at contact had continued sporadically. The most recent had been a formal-looking letter from Dad's lawyer that turned out to be mostly bluster, claiming I had acted in bad faith by removing myself from family accounts. My own lawyer had responded with a brief factual letter outlining that I had acted within my legal rights with accounts in my name. "Did she say anything to you?" I asked. Tyler shook his head. She saw me, and for a second, I thought she might come over. Then she just turned her cart around and went down another aisle. I felt a familiar twinge of sadness but pushed it aside. This was the consequence of boundaries, I reminded myself. Sometimes they hurt. The following week, I received an unexpected call from my Aunt Laura, Mom's sister, who had always been the family mediator. "I think it's time we all talked," she said without preamble. "This situation has gone on long enough." "There's nothing to talk about," I replied stiffly. "They made their position clear on Christmas." "Things have changed, Mia," she said softly. "Your parents had to sell the house." The news hit me harder than expected. That house had been my childhood home, the site of birthday parties and holiday gatherings, my first steps and first heartbreaks. "Where are they living?" I asked, my voice smaller than I intended. "They bought a condo downtown. It's much smaller but nice enough. Jack's business has downsized significantly. He's had to let go of most of his staff." I thought of the loyal employees who had worked for my father for years. "That's unfortunate for the team." "Sophia's had to get a regular job too," Aunt Laura continued. "She's working as an assistant at a marketing firm. The influencer thing wasn't paying the bills after all." I couldn't help but feel a touch of vindication at this news, immediately followed by guilt for the feeling. "Laura, I appreciate you calling, but I don't see what this has to do with me." "They made their choice." "They made a mistake," she corrected gently. "A terrible one in the heat of anger. But they're your family, Mia." "Family doesn't throw you out in the snow on Christmas," I replied, the memory still painful. "Family doesn't keep your personal belongings hostage. Family doesn't try to control your entire life." "No," she agreed. "They don't. Your parents have learned that lesson the hard way. All I'm asking is that you meet with them. One conversation. I'll be there the whole time." After discussing it with Tyler, I agreed to a brief meeting at a neutral location, a quiet corner of a local coffee shop. I arrived early, my stomach in knots, and chose a table with clear sight lines to the exits. Tyler had offered to come, but I decided this was something I needed to face alone. They arrived together: Mom, Dad, Aunt Laura, and to my surprise, Sophia. They looked different. Dad had lost weight, and his confident swagger was gone. Mom seemed smaller somehow, more subdued. Sophia's designer clothes had been replaced by a simple blouse and jeans. Aunt Laura took charge, immediately establishing ground rules. "We're here to listen to each other. No interrupting, no accusations, just honest communication." Dad cleared his throat, looking uncomfortable. "Mia, I want to acknowledge that things went too far at Christmas. I was angry and I overreacted. It wasn't exactly an apology, but from my father, it was unprecedented. You kicked me out of the house during a snowstorm," I said quietly. "After years of taking advantage of my financial support and labor." He flinched, but didn't deny it. "We didn't see it that way at the time. I thought we were just operating as a family unit. Everyone contributing." "Except my contribution was dramatically larger and never acknowledged," I pointed out. "And when I tried to create a life for myself, you punished me for it." Mom reached across the table, not quite touching me. "We took you for granted, Mia. We see that now." Sophia stared at her lap. "I didn't understand how much you were doing for all of us. I just thought, that's what big sisters do." "No," I said firmly. "That's not what siblings do. That's not what family does. Healthy families support each other equally. They respect boundaries. They celebrate each other's independence." Dad's jaw tightened. "We've paid a high price for our mistakes. The house, the business, everything has changed." "That wasn't my intention," I said honestly. "I just needed to protect myself." "By destroying our lives," he challenged, a flash of the old anger returning. Aunt Laura stepped in. "Jack, that's not fair." Mia removed herself from financial entanglements that never should have existed in the first place. The conversation continued for over an hour, cycling through recriminations, explanations, and occasionally moments of genuine realization. No one emerged unscathed, but for the first time I felt truly heard by my family. As we prepared to leave, Dad asked the question I knew had been driving this whole reconciliation attempt. Will you come back to the business we're struggling without you and with your expertise? No, I interrupted firmly. I have a career now, one that I love and that values my contributions appropriately. His face fell, and I realized he still didn't fully understand. This wasn't about money or convenience. This was about respect. I'm willing to have a relationship with all of you, I said carefully, but it has to be different than before. I need boundaries. I need acknowledgement of what happened, and I need to know that you see me as an independent adult with my own life, not as an extension of the family unit. Mom nodded tearfully. We want that too, sweetheart. We miss you. As we parted, Sophia hung back. I have your external hard drives, she said awkwardly. I took them from Dad's office when he wasn't looking. Everything's still on them. Your photos, your college papers, everything. I can bring them to you. It was a small gesture, but significant coming from my sister. Thank you, I said. That would mean a lot. The healing process with my family has been slow and imperfect. There have been setbacks and old patterns that tried to reassert themselves. Dad still occasionally makes comments about how I abandoned the family business. Mom sometimes slips into passive-aggressive guilt trips. Sophia has moments of entitlement that remind me of her old self. But there has also been growth. Dad, facing the reality of running his business without me, has had to become more self-sufficient and humble. Mom has found a part-time job she actually enjoys, giving her an identity separate from Jack's wife. And Sophia, through the necessity of actual employment, has developed a work ethic I never thought possible. As for me, the journey has transformed my understanding of family love and self-worth. Through therapy and the unwavering support of Tyler and true friends, I've learned that setting boundaries isn't selfish, it's essential. I've discovered that my value isn't tied to what I can do for others, but exists inherently in who I am. The most profound lesson came 6 months after our coffee shop meeting when Tyler proposed. As we planned our small wedding, the question arose of how to include my family. They should be there, I decided after much reflection, not because they deserve it, but because I choose to have them in my life, on my terms. When I told Dad he wouldn't be walking me down the aisle, that honor would go to Aunt Laura, he accepted the decision with a grace that would have been unimaginable a year earlier. I understand, he said simply. I haven't earned that right. In that moment, I knew that while the wounds may never fully heal, we had all grown through this painful process. True family, I've learned, isn't about obligation or control. It isn't about financial entanglement or emotional manipulation. True family, whether related by blood or by choice, supports your independence, celebrates your successes, and respects your boundaries. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from those who cannot or will not offer that respect. And sometimes the most unexpected gift is watching those same people learn and grow when faced with the consequences of their actions. My father kicked me out on Christmas night thinking I would come crawling back desperate for his approval and acceptance. Instead, I found the strength to stand on my own feet and build a life that truly belongs to me. And that has made all the difference. 1 year after that fateful Christmas night, my life looks completely different. Tyler and I are married now, living in our own home. A modest but charming house with a yard where we're planning to plant a garden in the spring. My career at the architectural firm is flourishing. I was recently promoted to project manager for a sustainable housing development that aligns perfectly with my values and vision. The relationship with my family continues to evolve. Dad still struggles with the new dynamic where he can't control or direct my choices. There was a tense moment at our wedding when he attempted to give a speech that cast himself as the supportive father who always believed in me, a narrative so divorced from reality that several guests who knew our history exchanged uncomfortable glances. Later that night, he pulled me aside, wanting to discuss coming back to help with the family business just a few hours a week. When I declined, he couldn't hide his frustration. I still don't understand why you had to burn everything down, he said. We could have worked something out. I tried to work things out for years, I reminded him. You weren't interested in compromise until you faced consequences. He doesn't see it yet, and maybe he never will. For him, family means hierarchy with him at the top. The idea of equal, respectful relationships is still foreign to his understanding. Mom has made more progress. She calls occasionally just to chat, rather than to make demands or passive-aggressive comments. She's careful to ask about my boundaries and seems genuinely interested in my life. Recently, she confided that she started seeing a therapist to work through her own patterns of enabling behavior. "I never wanted to rock the boat," she admitted during a lunch date. "I thought keeping peace was more important than standing up for what's right. I was wrong, and I'm sorry I didn't protect you better." That apology meant more than she could know. Sophia's transformation has perhaps been the most surprising. The reality check of losing her cushioned lifestyle forced her to develop actual skills and work ethic. She's still pursuing social media on the side, but her content has shifted from shallow lifestyle posts to more authentic sharing about personal growth and career development. We meet for coffee every few weeks, and while we'll never be as close as I once hoped, there's a new foundation of mutual respect. Tyler has been my rock through all of this, never once saying, "I told you so," despite having recognized my family's toxic patterns long before I could see them clearly. His healthy relationship with his own family has shown me what normal family dynamics can look like. Supportive but not enmeshed, loving but with clear boundaries. Last month, we started a new holiday tradition of hosting family of choice celebrations, inviting friends and relatives who bring positive energy into our lives. Our first Thanksgiving under this new tradition was filled with laughter, genuine connection, and not a single moment of walking on eggshells. As for Christmas, we've decided to travel this year. A small cabin in the mountains, just the two of us. No drama, no expectations, no emotional manipulation disguised as tradition. Just peace, love, and the freedom to create our own meaning for the holiday. The financial independence that allowed me to break free from my family's control has become a passionate cause for me. I now volunteer at a women's resource center, helping others understand financial abuse and empowerment. So many people are trapped in toxic relationships, with partners, parents, or other family members, because of financial entanglement. Sharing my story has helped others recognize their own situations and find paths to independence. Would I do it all again? Cutting off every bill and watching as my family's perfect facade crumbled in a heartbeat. Not out of vengeance, but because sometimes the most loving thing you can do for everyone involved is to stop enabling harmful patterns. The truth is, my family needed that wake-up call as much as I needed my freedom. Dad's business is smaller now, but more sustainable. Mom has discovered interests and capabilities she never knew she had. Sophia has developed resilience and self-sufficiency that will serve her well throughout life. And I have discovered that family is not a prison sentence or a balance sheet of obligations. It's a connection that should be nurtured through mutual respect, genuine care, and the freedom to be your authentic self. If you're watching this and recognize yourself in my story, if you're the one who always gives, who carries the financial or emotional burden, who puts yourself last to keep the peace, please hear this. You deserve better. Your worth is not measured by your usefulness to others. Your boundaries are not selfishness. Your independence is not betrayal. Sometimes the greatest act of love, both for yourself and for those who have grown accustomed to taking advantage of you, is to step back and let the natural consequences unfold. It won't be easy. The guilt, the fear, the conditioning to put others first, these are powerful forces. But I promise you, on the other side of that difficult journey lies a freedom and authenticity that is worth every painful step. Have you ever had to set difficult boundaries with family members who took you for granted? What happened when you finally stood up for yourself? Share your story in the comments below. And if you found value in my experience, please hit that like button and subscribe to the channel for more stories about finding strength in difficult situations. Remember, sometimes losing what you thought was everything leads you to find what you truly deserve. Thank you for listening to my story.